Okay, members of the press, we gathered here just to make a few announcements. I will give the press release and then we'll let the panel give their comments as when they need to. Okay. Bulabinaka and good afternoon. We all know the impact of COVID-19 that has stretched far beyond that of the health sector. Our response has always been a whole of government approach, particularly when it comes to Fiji's economic recovery. And that's why I'm here today with representatives from our COVID-19 Risk Mitigation Taskforce. Our full CRMT consists of the Permanent Secretary for Economy, who is our chairperson, myself as the Acting Permanent Secretary for Health and Medical Services, and the Permanent Secretary for Trade, for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport. We've been working very closely with other co-opted members of the task force, which have included the Permanent Secretary for Immigration, the Health Protection Team, Incident Management Team, and the Republic of Fiji Military Forces Surveillance Team. As we have previously announced, we have securely confirmed border quarantine cases of COVID-19 among our citizens who are returning from overseas. These cases have not represented a risk to the public. They have been under the watchful eye of our disciplined forces. Fiji's borders remain sealed and the virus has never entered our communities. However, I am sad to report that another of these patients, a 61-year-old man, he passed away due to complications of COVID-19. The gentleman contracted the virus while in the United States. He arrived to Fiji from Sacramento, California on the 6th of August, where he was immediately taken into quarantine. He did develop symptoms of COVID-19 shortly after entering our border quarantine facilities, and then was transferred to our isolation unit at Nandi Hospital. When his condition got a bit worse, he was transferred to the isolation unit at Lotoko Hospital for specialized care. Despite the best efforts of our healthcare professionals, he sadly passed away last night at the Lotoko Hospital Intensive Care Unit. We at the Ministry of Health and Medical Services extend our deepest sympathies to his family and friends. We feel this loss across the ministry, and our treating nurses and physicians mourn his loss even more acutely. But despite this, we take some solace in the fact that this gentleman was able to return to Fiji, and it is here he can be laid to rest in Fiji, his home. Our Lotoko Hospital colleagues have worked with the gentleman's family to ensure funeral arrangements adhere to the necessary infection prevention and infection control protocols. We had delayed announcement of this second fatality until afternoon out of respect for the family's wishes, as they had requested that they be able to hold this gentleman's burial before they were thrust into the national spotlight. So we were all shocked when the Fiji Sun jumped the gun with a report of his passing, even after we had specifically expressed to them to hold off for the sake of this gentleman's loved ones. I personally had spoken to the person who released the report and asked him not to release the report until we had sorted out the burial. We are deeply disappointed with the Fiji Sun's lack of ethics in this instance. No media organization should let moral imperatives be overridden by an insatiable desire to be first at their reporting. These are sensitive issues that demand decency from all of us. And it's shameful that the Fiji Sun is more focused on making headlines than on granting this family the privacy to mourn their loss. In fact, it's even more than just indecent. Such reckless reporting puts unfounded fear in people's heart. So as they learn of a fatality from this deadly virus without having any proper context. We hope never to see such irresponsibility repeated. I want to assure every Fijian watching this announcement that this latest fatality, while it is tragic, it does not pose a risk to the public. It has been 129 days since Fiji recorded a new case of COVID-19 in our community. We aim to maintain that unbroken streak. All health personnel directly involved with the care of this patient have adhered to strict infection prevention and control protocols. Each will undergo quarantine in a government-designated facility. And all of these health personnel must clear a negative COVID test before they can be released out into the community. As confirmed by our continual testing at the border and among the Fijian public, we are now one of the few countries, if not the only country in the world, to contend with an outbreak of virus, contain the outbreak, and then go more than 100 days without any resurgence. With over 23 million cases and 800,000 deaths from COVID-19 confirmed around the world, no one should take Fiji's COVID-contained status for granted. In our own neighborhood, Australia and now New Zealand are both contending with new outbreaks of the virus, as are Papua New Guinea and French Polynesia. In New Zealand's case, given how effectively they stamped out the initial outbreak, the latest cluster of cases came as a surprise to all of us. But we are confident our Kiwi partners will act with the same decisiveness that served them well in the past. We actually applaud New Zealand's recent move to implement managed isolation for confirmed patients and mobilize the New Zealand Defence Force to enhance their border security. Fiji can attest that these measures actually work, where you separate the positive cases from the normal population. You use your Fiji military forces or your military forces to man that site, and if anybody gets sick, we separate that sick person again from the quarantine people. We know that works for us. New Zealand's experience goes to show that Fijians cannot become complacent. Nor have we been. We have continued to test regularly for the virus in our communities and among our healthcare workers. All our tests have turned negative. Our testing positivity rate, which is the single most important metric to assess how well we are doing, ranks amongst the lowest in the world at 0.4%. On a more technical side, we've also been conducting exhaustive reviews of the guidelines within the Fiji COVID-safe economic recovery framework. We said from the start that this is a flexible framework that will evolve alongside our constantly changing global and local environment. So as part of our announcement today, we are announcing some amendments to the phase 2 of our COVID-safe economic framework. These announcements are mainly just for consistency. Let me repeat that we are not relaxing any public health measures here. We just trying to maintain some consistency. As per our last announcement, all gatherings were limited to 100 people. We are amending that restriction, allowing for houses of worship, restaurant, cafes, entertainment venues such as gaming centers, bars, pubs, and conferences, and meeting venues, swimming pools, common areas in boarding facilities, including wedding, funerals, and other community gatherings, to function at 50% capacity. So if a venue has a capacity for 500 people, it can now host up to 250 people. However, if a venue capacity is less than 200, it can host events with 100 people or less. This applies to both indoor and outdoor facilities. Up until now, we've been using the 50% capacity threshold for sports stadiums. And just like with any other athletic events, we expect that this 50% reduction in capacity will be working together with measures that we consider COVID-safe precautions. That means that we must maintain physical distance of 1.5 meters as much as possible, avoid shaking hands, kissing and hugging, queue responsibly, wash our hands frequently with soap and water or alcohol-based sanitizer, cough and sneeze into a tissue or the bend of your elbows, and stay home if you're feeling unwell. Lastly, and this is very important, please download the Care Fiji contact tracing application. If you're organizing an event, make sure everyone attending the event has Care Fiji installed with the Bluetooth on. Seriously, when someone arrives, they should show that they have the Care Fiji on their phone. If not, then we must get them to manually sign in front of someone in the front. No exceptions. We need the Care Fiji app to actually help in doing contact tracing should we find a case in the community. We also understand that some nightclubs have sought to obtain new business designation as taverns in the interest of reopening their businesses. We fully appreciate that nightclub owners have seen a severe impact to their bottom line due to our health restrictions. However, the reality is that these businesses do represent a high-risk environment for potential spread of the virus. Moving forward, any request for nightclubs to seek new business designations will be approved on a case-by-case basis with compulsory input from the Ministry of Health. Our team will need to ensure that these venues can operate in a COVID-safe manner before any new designation can be considered and they can reopen their doors. I now go to some of our announcements relate to returning diplomats and permit holders. Globally, countries have introduced protocols for diplomatic travel. Fiji has allowed diplomats to return to Fiji on a case-by-case basis, and we will continue to do so. Valid permit holders will also be permitted to return to Fiji on a case-by-case basis, and we are selectively granting new permits on a case-by-case basis for individuals who possess specialized skills that aid Fiji's COVID-safe economic recovery. Existing and new permit holders must apply to the Permanent Secretary for Immigration to enter Fiji. All applications for returning diplomats and permit holders, old and new, are subject to vetting by the Ministry of Health. Travel arrangements for all travelers entering Fiji are designed entirely around preserving public health and well-being. All individuals must clear a negative test result for the virus before boarding the flight. That's what we call a pre-departure test. The test result must be reviewed and approved by the Ministry of Health before the traveler actually boards the flight. Some may be required to test again upon arrival based on the assessment of the Ministry of Health. These individuals must then spend at least 14 days in a government-designated quarantine facility. After the quarantine period, then the individuals must clear another negative COVID test result, which we call the border quarantine exit test, before entering the community. So we can potentially have up to 3 tests. One before departure, one on entry, and one as you leave the quarantine facility. Non-citizens will be required to bear all costs relating to quarantine and testing. And our entry and testing requirements you can find detailed on the Fiji government website. Now, as we've said before, we do understand this pandemic's economic impact, like joblessness, that can be as dangerous as the direct health impact of COVID-19. As recently stated by the Director General of WHO, World Health Organization, we do not need to choose between lives and livelihood, or between health and the economy. That's a false choice. On the contrary, the pandemic is a reminder that health and the economy are inseparable. So it is important that we find the balance between health and the economy, between the COVID-19 concerns and our economic recovery. As such, our Blue Lanes initiative continues to operate safely and successfully. As of yesterday, 66 yachts have been approved under this initiative, with more yachts and super yachts on the way. To ensure super yachts can function properly, we are also allowing for crew changes. So some of the super yachts are coming here, then the crew fly in from another country to come and change. This means crews are being flown into Fiji to join the super yachts, allowing these vessels to run properly and be maintained for months at sea in Fiji. Again, the requirements for entry into Fiji are strict. All crew must clear pre-departure test, spend 14 days in quarantine, then clear the border quarantine exit test. Also, with regards to our Bula bubble, we previously announced that travelers from Australia and New Zealand will be allowed to board flights to Fiji through two pathways. One, that they could spend 14 days of quarantine in their home country, clear a negative test and arrive in Fiji. Or they could get a negative COVID test, spend 14 days of quarantine in Fiji, in the Fijian government designated facility, then embark through our VIP lanes to one of our specially designed resorts to begin the Bula Bubble vacation. Unfortunately, due to the new outbreaks of COVID-19 in Australia and New Zealand, the Australian and New Zealand governments cannot confirm or cannot certify home quarantine for potential travelers to Fiji. So we've just closed that pathway for the time being. Otherwise, the Bula Bubble will continue to function as designed in the second pathway option, where all incoming travelers must conduct a pre-departure test, spend 14 days in a government quarantine facility, and then clear the border quarantine test to begin their vacation. Again, I repeat, no one comes to Fiji, no one is able to come into Fiji and remain exempt from the 14 days of quarantine. No one can enter Fijian society unless they have cleared negative test result for COVID-19. Our health personnel and discipline forces do have the capacity to make arrangements for alternative quarantine sites. However, the individual must bear the cost of their off-site supervision by members of the discipline forces, and we do have a strict criteria to selecting those who will be able to get off-site quarantine facilities. I have to repeat again over here that we have made provisions to replicate the quarantine conditions, not to waiver quarantine conditions. We never waiver any quarantine condition. We only replicate it in alternative sites. So in conclusion, our COVID-safe economic recovery framework was designed to be adaptable to the realities of the new normal. We fully expect more amendments as we move forward. Throughout that ongoing review, every Fijian must trust that every one of our decisions are based on science and is in line with the best global practices. To maintain Fiji's COVID-contained status, our vigilance is the only vaccine available to us. And we must all remain vigilant at all times. As always, we urge you to wash your hands, maintain physical distance where possible, and install the Fiji Care digital contact tracing application. Thank you.
We'll invite any questions from the media.
Dr. Fong Kelly from FBC News. Did the Health Ministry anticipate another second death, COVID, with a 61-year-old patient coming in from the US?
We knew he was not well, but I do know that a lot of press media have been asking us about the conditions of our patients. We are really not at liberty to discuss those conditions or to warn anybody that somebody is getting sick. You know, that's a family affair. It requires, privacy. There's a lot of grief involved. So whilst we did know or we did anticipate that that we were planning for this event. I'm also aware that we also did not really want to let the public know what was happening, because we are mindful of the families who have to deal with issues that relate to their relatives. Yeah?
I'm Anna from my TV. Can the ministry disclose when did he pass away?
We just knew it was last night. Yes.
Dr. Fong, Shelvin for your son, how would you tell 50% in venues which are not marked? I mean, we say 50%. Somebody would argue my venue is 500, while the actual is 300. So how do we justify that?
Yeah, we will have to work through the process of justifying or actually seeing, objectively measuring. We are really hoping that we do not have to go with 1 centimeter ruler and measure everybody. We kind of hope that people will be guided by some degree of common sense, and that when you look from afar, you can see people are adequately separated. We did have a problem with the word 100, because 100 can mean one big 600, a room for 600, and we only put 100. Okay? So that was the problem that we had with the word 100. But as we move along, we are refining some objective measures to look at the 50% capacity. But I would seriously hope, I think all of us would seriously hope that Fiji as a nation would see the sense of not trying to be overly...
So, as observed, some family functions, they are attracting large number of crowds, and there's no controlling on that 50%. How? I mean, although you are asking for Fijians to be vigilant and exercise their own judgment in coming up to this, is there plans to actually patrol that or police that?
I do have access to a number of what we call spotters, who go into the community and they give me technical reports of trends and happenings in the community. And what we are trying to do is that if we find a certain trend, then we will develop more legislative power to deal with it, with those trends. Yeah? I've mentioned in the past that there will be some business who will send spotters too. And if we feel that we do need to start looking at empowering ourselves as a CRMT to close businesses down, then that's an option that we'll have to explore.
I've asked you this before. Those nightclubs that are operating with a Steven license, have your spotters been going down to those places?
They've gone there, they've taken photos, they've given videos to me. I know one particular one has been stopped. We closed it off, got the police to go and help us sort that out. We are drawing up guidelines for what distinguishes a nightclub from a tavern, and we will get that guideline tightened up. And then everybody who applies for tavern license, we will make sure that they go and fit in all the things that we have in the guideline.
So how far until phase 3 is announced?
I think that for us, phase 3 is something that we will have to judge according to the scale of the pandemic. One of the main determinants about the phase 3 is the risk of entry. And the risk of entry primarily relates to the level of the pandemic, how controlled is it. So when I say pandemic, that means the global pandemic. Even if you have Australia and New Zealand control, the fact that US and other big countries will have uncontrolled disease, that still requires that we won't be able to just go straight into phase 3.
So can you clarify, is there a date when the function capacity of 50% will roll out, or is it from tonight?
It starts as we speak, yes.
PS, if I could just add as well. So we've gone 129 days without any case in the community. Some other countries have gone past, 100 days, etc. And before that, they actually lifted a lot of their restrictions and just said, we've lifted all the restrictions on gatherings. People can do what they want. They can go to massive rugby games, and then they had a resurgence of the disease. So we've had a lot of questions. When we passed 100 days, people were saying, what are you waiting for? If you don't have it in the community, why are you not opening up and letting us have functions of over 100? Well, this is why. Because we've always taken the very cautious approach, and even now we're moving to 50%. People can say, why aren't you just saying we can, have 100% gatherings? The reason being, the main reason is that we want to allow for that distancing. So if you're having a gathering, if you're reducing the capacity to 50%, you can say, okay, I'm able to maintain this amount of distance between everyone that's there. So that is why we were trying to push towards a new normal, that this is the new normal of living with COVID-19, is that we all have to change and we all have to embrace these restrictions.